When it comes to real estate investment, we mostly hear about and take part in residential and commercial real estate, right? But there are other sides to real estate that you might not have done, right? And that is agricultural real estate. And that is what we're going to be discussing here today on our channel. And with me, I have Mr. Olamide Adesanya, the MD and CEO of Realtors Continent Limited, and he is the expert in this area. So he's going to be telling us all about, the agricultural side of real estate investments. But before we get started, please subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and drop a comment below if you have any questions. Right. So, Mr. Olamide, it's great to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
So now let's start from the beginning, right? So can you tell us a bit about yourself and your company? Yeah.
Okay, my name is Olamide Adesanya. I am the CEO of Realtors Continent, and what we do is real estate in general, although we are more focused on the agricultural aspect of real estate currently. Yeah, but then we do real estate in general.
So this agricultural side of real estate, right? So how did you get into it?
Okay, so it's been a long time coming. I can remember when I was very young, I used to plant yam, and before the yam grows, we will go and take it off. And the excitement of seeing something grow from the ground, I will just take it up, cook it, and then we'll be very happy and all that, right? Eventually, sometimes in 2017, 2018, started growing vegetables. Because we needed to survive as a student those times, right? And then we're growing vegetables and then we're eating them. And I think sometimes in 2020, I can't even remember exactly when. I was driving through Lekki traffic and I wanted to buy plantain, and a bunch of plantain was selling for almost 10,000 naira. And I was very angry that, we can grow these things and sell at a cheaper rate. So we decided to start the whole agricultural thing. Yes.
Oh, that's great. That's really great. So you started at a very early age.
Yes.
Okay, so Mr. Olamide, you recently launched a agricultural project, right? Called Ile-Oko. So can you tell us a bit about that project and why you decided to go into it? What problem is it solving?
Okay. Ile-Oko is just like the name implies, farmland, right? It's a farmland that is located in Ishaga, really in Abeokuta, and it's a 200 acres farmland. And what we are planning to do, what we are currently doing, is to at least make sure that a lot of Nigerians grow their own food, right? They don't necessarily have to do that by themselves. We have experts, farm managers, and everyone that is doing that for them, right? But what we are trying to do is to make sure that food is more accessible. Currently food is really expensive.
Yes, definitely.
Foodstuffs are really expensive. So we want to make sure that we grow enough food. And part of the problem is solving. One thing I've realized is that a lot of the food that we consume, they all come from the north. Most of them come from the north, or they import some of them, right? So we are trying to bridge that gap, right? The food don't have to travel all the way from north all the way to Lagos, because transportation costs, we know the current price of fuel in the market now is really expensive.
Yes,
so
definitely.
We need to reduce the whole logistics. So that's one of the reasons why we decided to launch Ile-Oko in Abeokuta, so that we can take out a lot of all these expenses, logistics, and all that, and also to make sure that a lot of people are more aware that agriculture or farming is something that more people should actually go into.
Okay, that's really interesting. You mentioned a couple of things. So first of all, I think that's a massive farmland. I think people might not be able to comprehend the size. You said 200 acres.
Yes.
So 200 acres, that's about 1,200 plots, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a very, very massive farmland, right? And you also said that you'll be farming for people,
right? Yes.
So how does that work actually?
Okay, so aside from owning the farmland, we also render farming services at a cost, which at the end of the farming season, you get the return on investment on the land. Every of the crop that we grow on the land, on your own particular land, right, belongs to you. So you can either decide that we sell those things for you, or you take them away by yourself.
You own the land, right? And then they can take advantage of your farming service.
Exactly.
So you farm for them and then they earn return from the sales.
Exactly.
Right? Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. So now, for people who are already doing residential land or commercial land or properties, right? Why should they consider adding, a farming project like this to their portfolio?
Okay, so agriculture is something that both the old, young, no matter your age, you get to partake out of, right? You must eat. Everybody must eat.
Definitely.
Right. It's not everybody that's going to buy commercial properties. It's not everybody that's going to do all that, right? Some people would rather live in a rented apartment than building their own in some areas. I mean, in a place like Lagos, some people would say, okay, I'd rather build in my own village and all that. Do you understand? But agriculture is something that wherever you are, you must eat. From age 2, you start eating food and all those things. Do you understand? So, I mean, this cut across everybody. So there is no, I am not interested in commercial property. I am not interested in this particular location. Provided everybody is eating, that means we need to grow more food. And the population rate is increasing every day. That means the number of people that are eating are increasing every day.
Exactly.
Do you understand? So aside from doing the commercial real estate, aside from doing the residential real estate, we all need to actually really focus on agricultural real estate. We need to do more of farmland, right? Especially in the West.
Yes,
especially in the West, so that, I mean, like I mentioned earlier,
food will be cheaper, yeah.
Yes, food will be cheaper, and then at least we get to grow our own food. And I mean, the fun of seeing something actually grow, like starting something from the beginning and watching it grow over time. The achievement, the fulfillment, yes. I mean, it's really interesting to me personally. I'm not sure of.
Yeah, it's very interesting actually, and I think that for a lot of people, this is an opportunity to do something for. You're always like, okay, what can maybe the government do for us? But this is an opportunity to also be a part of the solution.
Exactly.
To like food.
Exactly.
High cost of food and all by being a provider, not just consumer waiting for solutions.
Right.
Yeah, so that's very interesting. Yeah, so now you said a lot of nice things about Ile-Oko and farming and what you guys do and all.
Right.
But there's one question that I know that will be on the mind of a lot of viewers, right? So previously we've had say like around 2020, we had a lot of this agro land vest platforms that were going all around, promising people 30, 50% ROI, some as much as 70, 100% ROI per annum, right? And a lot of people invested in this platform. Some of them got returns, but over time, most of them, in fact, almost all of them, if not all of them, have crashed, right? And people are still trying to get their money back and all of that. So in terms of that model where there's an unrealistic, unsustainable fixed ROI promised, right, which has failed, versus what you are currently doing, can you tell us like what the difference is and how yours will be better than the previous ones that crashed?
Okay, thank you so much for that question. Right, so part of what we are doing, the model we are running on is ownership. It's first ownership before we start growing anything for you. And I mean, we don't necessarily have to grow anything for you. You can decide to actually farm by yourself. I mean, it's your choice. Do you understand? So, Ile-Oko is a farm estate where you can buy into and decide to farm for yourself. Do you understand? Or if you're using our own farming service, we farm for you, right? Unlike the other investments that you mentioned, you don't get to own this property. You are not the owner of the land. They just tell you, bring a portion, bring a particular amount, and then you get this at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Which you don't even know if there is any land actually where they are growing anything. Do you understand? But this is a physical property that you can go to. We actually take all our investors to site once a month. So you can go and see the development, what is going on your land. I mean, Ile-Oko is not our first project. We have Harvest Haven that is sold out. That's a 50 acres farmland also in Ishaga. really. And people that bought into Harvest Haven, they came back. And I mean, Harvest Haven also is not our first project. The first one, we didn't even give it a name before it sold out. There were just 2 or 3 people that bought out of the 18 acres of farmland in Ibadan, and it sold out. And I mean, we've had return on investment more than 5 years now for those ones, right? For Harvest Haven, I mean, the first set of investment, return on investment is going out June this year, and for Ile-Oko is just starting, right? So this one, you get to own the property, okay, right? You can choose to say we should farm for you or not.
Okay.
So we are not asking you to bring a particular amount to get this particular amount at the end of the year. No way, right? Own the land. Once you own the land, farm with us if you choose to, farm for yourself if you want to, or you rent it out to people that want to farm, whichever path that you decide to go for. If you want us to farm for you, you come to the farm to see these things at least once a month. You know that this thing is growing. Do you understand? And on the day of harvest, you also get to know ahead of time that your product is going to be harvested at this particular period of time and all those things. I mean, for plantain, for example, it takes 9 months, right? So you know the day it was planted, you can calculate by yourself. You can, I mean, by the time you come to the farm, you also can see by yourself that this thing on my own portion of land is growing. You can decide to say, okay, terminate it at this point. You can decide to say, don't farm for me again. I mean, it's your land, it's your choice. Do you understand? Just like you're building a property on a land, you can decide to say, okay, you know what? I'm not comfortable with this person anymore. I want to bring in a new builder or something. Do you understand?
So essentially, the farming process and the return on investment, they're actually separate, right?
Exactly. They're totally separate.
So they own the land.
Exactly.
Investors own the land. So now the crops, or the farming process and the crops, which actually brings the yield, right, where they get their return on investment from, who owns the crops? Did they have rights over the crops such that maybe they can control the amount they can get from it, or does it belong to you and then you just give them, you just give them cash?
Okay, so if they're paying us for the farming, if you're going to be rendering the farming services for them, right, the crop on their land belongs to them. Okay. Everything, because it's a service we are rendering. So there's no splitting of the return on investment at the end of the day or something. So say, for example, you have an acre, then you're doing plantain. At the end of 9 months, we will have about 700 bunches of plantain on 1 acre, right? The entire 700 bunches of plantain belongs to the owner of the land. Do you understand? So yes.
Okay, that makes a whole lot of sense, right? So they own the land, they own the crops. You are just rendering a service for them, exactly, and they can choose to not use that service if they want to. Exactly, farm for themselves.
Exactly.
Okay, that's amazing. So now, the next question I have is in terms of risk, right? In terms of risk, we all know that yes, farming is good. We can get, you can grow crops, sell them, and make money. But then there's also a risk in terms of losses of crops or livestock, right? So, as a farm manager, somebody who has been doing this, what's your experience in terms of managing these risks and making sure that you get the maximum yield you can for your investors?
Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, I mean, Ile-Oko is not our first farm estate, neither is Harvest Haven. I mean, we've done this over years. In fact, we've actually done for our own personally before we started bringing it into the market, right? So we've done this, and then we've seen there's actually no phase of risk that we've not faced. Do you understand? But aside from my own expertise in farming and all that, we also have farm managers that are expert in also doing this, right? And like I cited an example of an acre of plantain, for example. Now, on that entire 1 acre, I mean, is expected that a part of all those things, we are going to lose a part of the plantain and all those things, right? We are actually not going to plant just 700 suckers. We are going to have, on that 1 acre, we plant as much as 800, sometimes 750, thereabout, right? So managing the risk is knowing that the expected return that the investor is expecting is 700, and what we've planted is about 800. So whatever is going to be happening to the 100 between the 700, the losses is going to come just from that excess.
Okay.
Do you understand? Why they are probably transporting the plantain from the farm to this. We know a lot of things can happen.
Yes.
So, that's why we've left enough room for at least 100 losses and all that. So we are making sure that everything, all the herbicides, fungicides, everything, to the little, we are so detailed about it, to the very little details, right? We are using the quantity we are meant to use at the right time and all that, right? So yeah, basically.
That's very interesting. So you're saying that you plant in excess, like for every crop that you've been growing there. So even if there are losses, you have extra to cover up for those losses. Okay. So that makes a whole lot of sense. So another thing we'd like to know is your farming process, right? So what's your farming process like? How do you do irrigation? How do you do, pest control and weed control and things like that? How do you just take us through your farming process?
Okay, for those that will be buying into Ile-Oko, I'd actually really say congratulations to them. And this is because the reason for the choice of that location was because of easy access to drainage and water, right? Because we faced some issues getting water in harvest haven, but in Ile-Oko we had to make sure, because water is something you really need for farming. Anyone that wants to do farming, whether it's rainy or not, you need water, right? So we got a land very close to a dam, right? So we can easily just pump water from the dam, and despite the fact that it's been dry season for about 3-4 months now, the dam is still filled up, right? So we have enough water. So irrigation system for all our pepper and all those things. If you go to sites now, they're currently growing. We already have yam in the ground. We already have pepper. In fact, they are going to harvest our chili pepper and pepper itself, that's rodo, by next week. We are going to start harvesting. In fact, some they are already harvesting like now. Do you understand? But by next week, they are going to harvest a lot more. So we are making sure that irrigation is very important, and we are making sure that we are doing like for pepper now, we are doing drip irrigation.
Okay.
Right. For planting, other things, we are doing sprinkler and all those things. So, irrigation is something we are really key on, because there's no time of the year we don't want to plant. Right. Okay. One of the reasons why food gets expensive at some time is because the farmers from the north, most of them wait for rainy season before they start planting. Do you understand? But we are not going to be waiting for that. We are providing water at every time of the day. Do you understand? So we are going to have enough irrigation system to go around, so we can even plant plantain during dry season. Do you understand? During dry season, it's not affected.
You farm all year long.
Yeah, all year long. And pesticide, we actually hired an expert on fungicide, pesticides, and that's really what he's focusing on, to know the quantity of everything he's meant to be putting into those things, right? So we have different farm managers. Those are focusing just on livestock. Those are focusing just on crops and all that. And they have me.
So you have specialists working in your team, not like you just have maybe one or two people just trying to do everything.
Exactly.
Okay, that's very good to know. At least you have people who know what they are doing, managing the farm. And then for some of these systems that you have put in place, right? Say irrigation, for example, for somebody that is not using your farming service, would they have to go and get water by themselves? Is it that they are like if you are not farming for you are not giving you any water, you have to go and fetch water by yourself or something like that, right? So how does it work?
Okay, for people that are doing that, we already have a central boil system. If they want to get from there, right, they can always tap into that, right?
So you give them water.
Yes, everyone that owns into the estate, they have access to water. Okay. Although we are not going to do the irrigation for them, they have to do the irrigation by themselves. Do you understand? But
they have access to the source.
Yeah, they have access to the source.
Okay. So now, as many investors would like to maximize, the profit they can make from their farmland, right? Can somebody just say they want to make as much money as they can? Can somebody plant pepper, yam, cassava on their land, they can plant, all the different type of crops. Is that possible?
Okay, so for us in Realtors Continent, the
Yeah.
highest we do on a particular land is just two different crops, right? We don't
Just
do
two?
more, yes, just two. And
Why is that?
we do not advise people to do more than that. I know a lot of people actually do a lot of, yes, which is fine sometimes, but what we want to achieve is to get maximum yield, right? If you plant different crops on the same land, all these crops are fighting for the same nutrient. Do you understand? From the land, they are all fighting for the same nutrient. If you have more than 2, 3, 4, and the likes, right? By the end of the day, you get to see. That's how you get some plantains. You see them; they are really tiny, and all those things. So, I mean, all those things happen. Do you understand? I know some people will argue that you can do more than 4 or 5, which is fine, honestly. But we don't do more than 2 crops.
It sounds like something that it will see the effects over time.
Exactly.
Oh,
Exactly. Right. So we don't do more than 2 crops, maximum of 2 crops on a particular portion of land. So say you can mix plantain, say with pepper. Yeah.
okay,
Right. I mean, like that.
okay. So that's noted. I'm sure anybody that is having plans to plant like 10 things, they are clear on that. So now, so just can you tell us like the different crops that we can, just give us like in general?
Okay. So currently we have plantain.
They can choose, right? People can choose.
Yes,
what they want
definitely.
to.
They
Yeah,
can choose.
so
And
tell us about-
another thing we will consider is the season, right?
Okay.
In which the person is making payment.
Okay.
Right? Because I mean, if you are making payment in a period like this, would rather advise you to do yam, because this is January thereabout, right? Would rather advise you to do yam and the likes. But I mean, we have yam, we have plantain, we have pepper, chili pepper, bell pepper, tomato. We have vegetables, ugu, and name all the vegetables. We also have oil palm, right? Although that's a longer time, it takes a longer time, about 5 to 6 years thereabout. We also have cassava, maize. We have livestock, goats, cattle, and catfish.
Oh, so you also have catfish as well?
Yes, catfish. Yes.
Catfish and livestock. Okay.
Yes, livestock. And basically, I think I've covered it.
Okay, yeah, that's quite a lot. So people can choose for those that want you to farm for them, right? They want that farming service. They can choose the ones the
of
crops
these
that they want.
options. Yes. Also, yeah, cashew. Yes.
Oh, you also do cashew.
Yes.
Okay, that's nice. And then they can choose.
Yes. Exactly.
Okay, awesome. So now, for someone who wants to invest, right? So what's the purchase process like?
Okay. So first is to purchase the land, right? We will not farm on the land for you if you are still paying. We have payment plan, so you can actually choose to pay for the land over a period of time, right? 3 months. So if you're still in the process of buying the land, we will not farm for you. I know some people will ask why, right? It's just like purchasing land and you want to build on the land.
Before
You can't start
pay,
building on the land before you pay for it. And I would also say that we've been burnt in the sense that some people, we started farming for them and they are waiting for the return on investment for them to pay us for this thing, right? So more like using our own money.
your money to pay you
exactly.
for the land.
Do you understand? So I mean, so we will only farm for you when you're done paying for the land. So upon purchase of the land, you get a payment receipt, you get a contract of sale between yourself and the company. You also get your survey. That's after you completely paid, right? On allocation, you get a survey that shows your own boundary for the land, right? Then you get a deed of assignment. That's a transfer of ownership, right? That you now own the land, right? After you make the full payment, then you can now go ahead and pay for the farming service. So if you pay for the farming service, you also get a contract that binds us, that says, oh yes, we are farming for you on this particular portion of land, and this is the crop we are planting for you, this is the expected return, this is how much you have paid, and all those things, right? So
and wait, for this farming costs, this farming service fee, is it like a one-time payment, like you continue to farm You just pay and then you continue to farm for them, forever, or what? Tell us about how that cost works.
Okay, so for the land, it is a one-time payment. You own the land,
okay.
right? But for the farming, it's per season. You pay every season. So after the harvest, we have to buy the seed all over again. We have to prepare the land all over again. We have to weed during the course of farming. We have to use fungicides, pesticides, all those things, right? Fertilizers, right? During the course of farming, like plantain, we have to put fertilizer about 3 times before a whole cycle goes through. Do you understand? And these things cost a lot of money. And we are currently in Nigeria, and we know that the prices of things actually go up every day. Do you understand? So yes, another thing I want to also mention is you have to pay for the farming completely before we even start farming. And this is why, like I mentioned, the cost of fertilizers today might not be the same cost tomorrow. So if you want to pay overtime and all those things, right?
So you don't come back to ask them to pay more.
Exactly, right? And then the laborers are not going to understand that, this is the time in which the owner of the land wants to pay for the land. If you want your job done, you have to pay laborers. You have to feed those guys because they do hard labor. Do you understand? So you have to pay for the farming completely. So pay for the land completely, pay for the farming completely. We start the whole process of the farming for you. This is something that you can come and see every month. That's when we are taking you, but you can choose to go to the farm at any time.
So like how many seasons? Since people are paying per season,
right?
Like typically how many farming seasons do we have in a year?
So it depends on what you're planting.
Okay.
For example, if it is yam, it's just once in a year, right? Yam takes 9 months. After the 9 months, I would rather say let's prepare the land and wait till maybe like November, December to start again. Do you understand? So I'll say yam is just once in a year. Plantain can be twice sometimes, right? Because the way plantain grows is takes 9 months at first, and then after the 9 months, 6 months, then it goes back to 9 months. So sometimes with the 6 months and the 9 months can fall within 1 year. Do you understand? So that means you can harvest in maybe like January, and by September you're harvesting again, or you can harvest in like April, and by, do you get something like that? So sometimes you can be 2 years. For pepper, you can harvest at least every quarter, right? You can harvest every quarter. So it actually depends on what you're farming. Like I mentioned, for oil palm, for the first 5 years, I'm not harvesting anything. Do you understand? And after the 5 years or 6 years, right, you can now start harvesting sometimes once a year, sometimes twice a year, right? So it depends on your choice crop. Yeah.
Okay. So right now there's the talk of documentation, land titles, and all, people losing their properties and things like that. So how safe is Ile-Oko, right? What title documents does it have? And how can investors feel like their right to be protected if they invest in your property?
Okay, so upon purchase of the land, before we even purchased it, we did our own due diligence to find out who owns the land and all those things, right? And then we found out the state of the land, and the land is already under the Ministry of Agriculture, right, in Ogun State, which we reached out to them and gotten a go-ahead, right, a letter directly from the Ministry of Agri in Ogun State, right, to own the land and use it for farming, right? So when we purchased, that's the first thing we did. Do you understand? So the entire 200 acres would have a C of O, right? The C of O, and but what we currently have is a registered survey and an approval from the Ministry of Agri in Ogun State. Yes.
Okay. Can you give us like the timeline for the C of O?
Okay, so the last time we spoke to them in the ministry by the end of February.
So February 2025.
February 2025.
So as we speak, it's already...
Yes, exactly.
It's already in process.
Yes.
Okay. So February 2025, ending of February 2025.
Exactly.
You have the C of O. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, fantastic. So for people that are, doing this farming, and also for your company, right? Especially for your company, do you have plans of, doing exports, maybe for your company or for investors who might be interested in exporting their, their crops. Yeah.
Okay. So a couple of people have actually reached out to us concerning exporting and all that, and I would want you to actually understand first why of us doing agriculture is to solve problem in our own country first. Do you understand?
Okay.
Because it's actually a lot, especially in a place like Lagos. I think food is very expensive, and I stay in Lagos, right? So that's the first thing. So one of the things that we do to make sure that food is cheaper is what we call a farm mart, right? We invite people over to come and buy food stuff directly from the farm, directly from the harvest. We are planning a lot more for 2025, which you're going to get update on. So aside that, I know that for our fish, yes, we are going to be exporting a lot of that because we've actually agreed to go ahead and export dry fish, right? Especially to the United Kingdom. So by the time we already have fish that we grill and all that, we are going to export those ones.
Oh, okay.
But for every other thing, for now, right, we do not plan to export them.
So just for local consumption.
Exactly. But if any of our clients are interested in exporting them, by all means, it's your land, it's your
crop. Yeah.
Do you understand? You do what we want to do. But if we are going to be selling it for you, what we are planning to do is to sell to people in our neighborhoods, in Lagos most especially, right, to make sure that they get these things at a cheaper rate, which will not in any way affect your return on investment as an investor, right? At the very least, you at least make 60% of your farming costs at the end of the farming season, at the very least.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's great. That's great. And so still on the ROI, right? And in terms of selling the crops like you just mentioned, how do you go about it? For people who will be using your farming service, they have crops at the end of the season. Mm-hmm. How do you go about selling these crops and giving them their profits?
Okay, so I think I mentioned already that upon harvest, right, you can choose to say we should sell this crop for you, okay, or you want to pick them by yourself. If you want to pick them and do whatever you want, that's fine, okay, right? But if you want us to sell them for you, we'll tell you ahead of time, maybe a week before harvest, that this is the current selling price, this is the current market value, right? So you already know that this is what you're expecting at the end of the day. Okay. Do you understand? And definitely it's going to be way more than the farming cost that you pay for. Mm-hmm. Definitely. That one I'm very certain about. Right. So, and then we take the crops straight to the market and go and sell it. Sometimes, to restaurants sometimes, right? Okay. But we want to make sure that we actually reach people directly, right? People that need these things directly. So we actually take them to Lagos, do something like a farm mart, okay, right? Where people come and they shop from the farm directly, okay, right? And they get it at the farm rate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, at the farm rate. And it's cheaper for them to buy, right? And you as an investor, you also get your good return on investment. But if you want to pick up the crops, by all means, you can do that.
Okay, that's fine. So you already have your partners that you supply or the company.
Exactly.
When they harvested. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, that's great. So I think for people who want to buy now, right? People have heard all of these things about going into the agricultural side of real estate and also the project that you've mentioned about. For those who want to invest in Ile-Oko, how do you go about investing in Ile-Oko?
All you need to do is to reach out to Bestate, right, okay, and we'll walk you through the process.
Okay. Yeah. So you heard that you can reach out to Bestate and we'll guide you through everything that you need to know about investing in Ile-Oko. So yes, Mr. Olamide, it's been amazing having you around and sharing with us all the great work that you're doing. So before we go, do you have any final words for our viewers?
Okay, so I would say that aside from buying residential properties, aside from buying commercial properties, everybody needs to own a farmland. Mm. Everybody needs to grow their own food, especially for those that are looking for a short-term investment where you get to get your return on investment in a short period of time.
Yes.
Right? Unlike land banking that you just buy the land and wait for 5 to 10 years before you appreciate. you can be making money while the land is also appreciating. Do you understand? So buy the land now, start farming on it, make your own return on investment within 1 year, right? And the land is also appreciating. So I mean, this is like 2 in 1.
Yes.
Do you understand?
Yes.
So yeah, so you don't have to wait for so long before you start making money. So I mean, do residential properties, do commercial properties, but more importantly, do agricultural properties.
Awesome. And I think the part for me, the most interesting part for me is that normally when it comes to getting cash flow, right, people always have to go to, rental properties, right? You have to invest 50, 100 million to buy an apartment and start,
Exactly.
before you furnish it, before you can start getting rent and all of that. But with land that is very affordable, you can be getting cash flow on an annual,
Exactly.
on an annual basis. So that's just that's the most interesting part for me. So thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much, Bestate.
Yeah. So if you want to see more, interesting interviews like this, please subscribe to our channel. If you found this valuable, subscribe, like this video, and give us that thumbs up. And we'll see you in the next video.